Welcome to Unity Talks, where the hiring experts of Dallas-based recruiting firm Unity Search engage in lively discussion with successful business leaders to dissect their careers and how they got to where they are today, the obstacles overcome to reach their success, and steps they've taken to stay at the top of their respective fields. So listen in as we provide you with the thought-provoking conversation and ideas that keep industries moving forward.
And welcome back to another episode of the Unity Talks podcast. And we are going to jump in quick again today, just like we did last week. So no wasting time with a long introduction. We are happy to have our guest today, Angela Schlemmer, who is the VP of Tax at Varsity Brands. Welcome to the show, Angie.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Great. Well, so here's the thing. The first time I talked to Angie was just Monday of this week. And man, she was a spitfire because she was so passionate about a specific topic. And a lot of times on this show, we meander and weave our way through a bunch of different topics. And today I feel like we're going to stop down on one specific topic. And it was such a passion about getting young professionals, seniors and staff to network and get out of their comfort zones, because what Angie has seen, and she'll go into this in way more detail than I have, is that with COVID, and even maybe prior to COVID with people having their face in their phones, but with COVID, it's accentuated the problem of how are we going to better develop our future leaders in America? And so two things. Number one, she's a tax person through and through, but I think we can take this topic and broaden it to any professional field.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
The second one is we may at times be painting with a broad brush. And so, we're not trying to pick on specific people. It's just something that's on her heart and on her mind. And so we want to explore it. And so I'm excited that you're here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the opportunity to pass on something that the professionals in the industry that I am, which is the tax field, something that we've noticed, but I do believe it's something that we're seeing in all related fields, is that the lower levels, there's such a demand for staff and senior levels in accounting, tax, and all kinds of industries that people can demand what they want. And right now what's wanted is remote work locations, and people want to be able to sit in their homes, probably sit in their sweats and work from the house and do what they do, and very little interaction, and have the comforts of home. Well, that's fantastic, and everybody wants to do that, but there are some downsides to that. And the downside is that you're not building your network. You're not building your professional network. You're not interacting with others outside of your immediate work, shall we say, your the personal relationships you're developing with your coworkers, et cetera, but you're not expanding in other companies outside of maybe even your maybe you're in accounting, but maybe you're not interacting with what maybe people over in supply chain, et cetera. So different organizational groups even. Yeah.
Well, let's start small and go a little bit bigger here. So even small, when you talk about your own department, so let's just take a tax associate. Have you found that it's harder for them to get to know each other over the past year and a half or so?
It is, but I won't say that we haven't managed to work effectively from home. I think that we have. Okay. And I think we've proven that we can work efficiently and effectively from home. We can. And I think we can build relationships, and I think we can do that. But what I'm trying to say is that when you're trying to build outside relationships, so you're almost cold calling type relationships. So I don't know you, David, and how would I know you if we don't work together. That's right. But we had a reason to get to know each other, and it's more of a networking type opportunity. Right. So I had to come out of my comfort zone and get to know you and say, oh, I don't want to sit at my desk in my own home today. I wanted to come and meet you for a different reason. And what we're seeing is staff and seniors, because they're so in demand, they don't have to leave the comforts of your home to attend to other things. So I want to encourage people for the benefits of doing that. The in-person networking events is what we're seeing a real decrease in. And so that people are missing the opportunities of such events.
Yep.
And the things that the benefits of those types of things are you get to learn from others, you learn the professionalism. That's a learned thing, professionalism. You also increase your network in terms of who might help recommend you for a job in the future.
Yep.
You might actually even be able to change professions, going from tax into accounting or into supply chain because you've increased your network. You might learn of opportunities at a company, or if you go to hire, you move up in a company, you might find that, oh, so-and-so's looking for a job, so I can hire them. So it's all that informal networking that helps you, that if you're sitting at your desk and just talking to coworkers on your Zoom calls, these types of things you're not going to learn about and you're not going to benefit from them.
And these are things that you've seen impact your career.
Absolutely.
So you're speaking from experience.
Absolutely.
This isn't just theory for you.
No. Absolutely. It's what's helped me get from being a staff person in public accounting, move to the different positions that I've experienced and helped with today, where I am today.
So let's talk about your personal experience, because I think people can learn from that, extrapolate that out, and apply that to themselves. So currently you're involved. So tell us what you're involved in now, the group that you're involved in now, and how you've leveraged that group to grow in your career.
I'm a member of the board of directors at Tax Executive Institute. Now, that is a professional group of tax professionals. Again, how boring is that? Tax professionals. But it is a group of people that get together. We meet regularly. We offer CPE, which is continued professional development for the tax executives. But we provide these networking opportunities. We bring in accounting professionals that teach us, that also want to sell us on things. But we get opportunities to get some free professional advice. Along with, we learn about job opportunities, what's going on in the market, what's happening in Congress, what new bills are about to come out, et cetera. And I've been doing this since I was thinking about it on the way here. I've really been involved with this organization for, back before the 2000s. So, yes, a lot of years. And it has benefited my career dramatically.
Okay, so what have you used this group specifically for? Like, have you faced a challenge in how you apply tax law to your organization, and you call someone from the group that you met?
I'll send out an email to the people that I know from the group or the chapter officers, and I'll send an email and say, has anybody faced this situation? And I'll get back responses, and either people have faced it or not, and if they haven't, they may actually say, hey, I know who would be a great person to contact. They handle this all the time. So instead of just randomly sending a question out to anybody or several firms, I'll know the best person in the country that'll work with me efficiently, and that's much more cost effective to get the best person who's handled it before in the country, because fees matter. When you're running a tax department, the fees matter. And so if I can't get a spot on answer, they'll tell me who can give me a spot on answer for the best price.
So I'm going to stop you on that. So what I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm hearing you say here is, so let's talk about your department, and it has a budget.
It has a budget.
And you were trying to apply that budget wisely.
Yes. And
because you've been involved in a group such as this, and I'm sure there are so many other groups across America within the accounting and finance and tax and IT field that we could apply this to. But instead of having to go to, let's say, one of the big four firms, maybe there's nothing wrong with them, we need them.
But that's exactly right.
But you're able to put something out there where it may cost you thousands of dollars. Instead, you're getting a resource for free.
Or if I can't get it for free, they'll say, go to so-and-so, and they can answer your question with a simple email, a phone call, or minimal research, because they already know the answer.
Okay, so I'm going to take you to the next step here.
Yep.
Would it stand to reason then that if someone is not involved in that, they could actually make a business case and go to their leadership at their organization and say, hey, if there are dues and fees for me to pay to be involved in this, I believe long term it is actual cost savings for our company.
Absolutely. And then you get so much free CPE that you normally have to pay for, et cetera, that it pays for itself. And I do know that every profession has these type of organizations, whether you're an auditor or risk management type organizations. Legal attorneys have their own type of organizations. So every profession has these type of organizations. And my recommendation is, if you're going to work remote, try to do a hybrid type arrangement with your employer, and then take advantage of all in-person networking opportunities that are available to you.
Can I take us back 1 second, because I don't think we covered this. Why did you do this? Why did you get involved in a group? Was it a mentor? Was it someone saying you needed to do this? Or was it something you recognized in yourself that was like, you know what, I need this?
It used to be such a privilege to get to interact with the people who had made it, that it was like, wow, if I could just get to interact and learn from these people and model them, because you wanted to climb that ladder and use these people as role models and mentors, etc. And it was really considered. It was very held in esteem to get to join these organizations and become a part of them and become part of the leadership, et cetera. And I think we've lost quite a bit of that as we've moved. I don't know how or what, but we've lost it.
Is this a slow deterioration over time?
Yes.
Or is this just like coronavirus happens?
No, it's deteriorated. And I don't know exactly, but we've seen a deterioration in the memberships of professional organizations pretty much across the board, and attendance. And it's because there's so much opportunity virtually.
And you're here today talking about this because you're looking down the field at the long-term impact of the future leaders in our organizations, right?
And I can see a deterioration as I look at the levels. I don't want to say younger people, because it can be, different levels or different ages. I can see a decrease in the professionalism and a decrease in the desire to interact with people on a regular basis, and also not an understanding of how much recommendations matter as you move up the ladder. It's not just your resume, and it's not just your experience. When people get your resume for jobs, more senior level positions, they don't just look and see this job, just this job. You also look, when you're looking at a resume, I look to see, is this a well-rounded person? Not just did they work here, and here, but did they do volunteer jobs? Did they do mentoring programs? What did they take advantage of? And maybe the person was maybe their background, I shouldn't say that, but they've been in Big Four their whole career. But at Big Four, you can do all kinds of other things. You can be involved in their mentoring programs, so many volunteer opportunities at Big Four jobs, et cetera. So there's more to it than just sitting at your desk, whether it be in home or in an office, and working for 12 hours a day.
Yep.
And you need to reflect that, and your resume needs to reflect that, and your knowledge, you need a social network that will refer you, and people can call and talk about you. Because make no mistake, phone calls are being made to find out about you. When someone's going to invest the amount of time and effort to hire you, phone calls are being made to find out about you and see if someone could say a good word about you.
Other leaders are always talking to other leaders about people. Just know this. You are getting talked about behind your back, and you want that to happen in a good way.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, there's so many things in our life that we cannot control. You can kind of control how other people are talking about you behind your back by the work product that you put forth, by your own networking, which is what you're talking about here, and by getting outside of your comfort zone. And I want to pause 1 second, because I almost say this at the very end, but I want to commend you. I really do want to commend you, Angie, for so it takes guts What you're doing right now, it takes guts, and you can tell that you're working so hard to choose your words wisely because you don't want to push anybody away. And you can just, I mean, y'all can, listening to this, or if you're watching this, you can see the passion she has about this because she cares. I want to commend you for that, taking the risk and having those guts.
And I like sitting at home in my sweatshirt with my dog. Ask anybody who's on a video call with me. My dog sits right behind me. Yes, Marcy knows. My dog's right behind me. She thinks she's part of my tax department. A video call happens and she's right beside me. I love it. But also, I know that there's a time and a place where I need to suit it up and get ready to go into the office and go to the events. And it feels so good to get to work, to say hi, to meet people. And it's you get such an energy from that. And it's an investment that's well worth making.
So how do we, let's talk about some advice here, okay? Other than just being on this show and getting the message out there this way, how do we get people to get outside of their comfort zone? Because that's a lot of what we've talked about, is pushing people outside of their comfort zone. And sometimes people need that nudge, right? I mean, we all want people we want people who are self-motivated. Like, I'd love to hire an entire staff full of, just the most highly self-motivated, high achievers there are. That would be phenomenal. And I think we all have achievers, but everybody has different degrees, and some people need to be nudged a little bit, and you don't have to nudge others. How do we help staff seniors get out there?
Well, okay, what I've done my whole career is highly encourage my staff or my department to attend events and say, hey, let's all load up and we're going to this luncheon and that luncheon. And we just made it things we did, and we went to luncheons, we went to the afternoon sessions. And if you build it in, and not slave drivers, I don't mean it like where you had to, but we accounted for it in our day that we were all going to go to this session or that session, or you guys go and I'll man the ship or whatever. So that it was, I don't want to say expected, but no one stayed and had to work till midnight because of a session. And whether we were going to a tax session or an accounting session, we just did it. And I think if we encourage people and we encourage the young people and explain the benefits, and I think you just encourage people and say, hey, go get it done, and then don't worry about if you have to come back, go home from there or whatever. Try to give some incentives with some carrots hanging at the end of the stick.
Okay, so go with me here on this, okay? And I'm going to try to make sure that people that listen to this don't roll their eyes at me. I really feel like I'm going to change the name of key performance indicator to something totally different because it has such a negative connotation. And I don't know what I'm going to call it yet, but I feel like I want to change it. Let's say that you're talking to a person who's a high performer, that's a staff or a senior, and they come to you, and that's how you would like it. They come to you and say, Angie, what's your, not you having to go to them, like, I really think you're going to be a high performer. So they come to you in your office and they say, I really want to grow in my career. I want to climb. I want to move up the corporate ladder. How can you help me? And you could highly encourage them. Would it be wrong to, again, I don't want to use a KPI, but say, hey, I have an idea, and join together with them and create a KPI for them that says, you know what? I want to hold you accountable because I do think that you can be a great tax leader or a leader in other fields in the organization. And so how about I do this? We're going to check in once a quarter, and you have to go to one thing once a quarter. And that's something that I want to hold you accountable to. And that's something that a lot of people are driven towards achieving. They need a metric to achieve something. Is that a fair way to do it, other than just highly encouraging? Because I highly encourage my kids to do things all the time that never get done, right?
Well, I definitely think high performers that are on the track, and there are some at some companies where they have the people that are on those special programs where they
Rotation.
are moving the rotation
Yeah.
programs, they definitely need to be required to do those networking opportunities because they need to be able to interact. So they should definitely be required. What I would do in my department is say, hey, I would really like you more as an opportunity and say, I would really like you to attend with me and do it sort of like I used to view it back in, shall we say, the old days, and say, I would really love.
Not the old days.
But it seems like it, yeah. And say, come with me. I would really appreciate it if you would
love
come
that.
with me and just let's see what this is about.
Yeah, let's do that.
And I would like to introduce to you, to some of the people that I've known for a few years, et cetera, and use it more as an opportunity to spend some one-on-one time, et cetera.
Windshield time. Drive with me.
Yes.
We get windshield time together.
Yeah, because-
we get to go to the event. I introduce you, and maybe you pay it forward to the next person.
Absolutely. That's how I would do it. And
love that.
that's the way I've always done it
Yeah,
until we had COVID.
right.
And I think we've all gone back into cocoons, and it's time to try to bring it out. And my main point is that the staff and the seniors of every profession right now have all the leverage. They've got all the cards, and with the cards, they seem to want to be home 110% of the time. But do yourself a favor. Long term, you need to be out and about and building your own network. It will do you good long term.
And
Promise.
Here's what you're not saying. Okay, so I want to recognize what you're not saying because you're specifically saying staff and seniors, and they hold the leverage, and it's a supply and demand. What you're not
Absolutely.
saying is someone listening to this and calling me tomorrow and saying, "Well, David, hey man, I heard the podcast, and here's the thing: I've got 35 years of experience, and I feel like I've earned the right to sit at home and work 100% remote." And if those people have developed their career at that point in time where they have 35 years under their belt and they want to work at home remotely 100% of the time, sure, you'd love them involved.
Oh.
But they're a 35-year person who wants to work 100% remote, and if they can find that, then great. What we're focused on is your next future generation leaders and organizations.
Absolutely. But never mistake the value of someone who's worked 35 years in the
I agree.
input and the wisdom that they have to offer.
I agree.
My gosh, would I like to pick their brain.
I agree.
But yes, they've earned the right to sit at home.
Okay, so we talked about highly encouraged. We've talked about if you're in a rotational program, that should be required. okay?
Absolutely.
We've talked about windshield time and why don't you come with me?
Yes.
Okay. So what other ideas can you share with leaders who might be listening to this going, man, I'm buying what Angie's selling. This is good. What are some other tips that we may have? Is it like you mentioned for you specifically, and you touched on it here, it's like, oh no, this has impacted my career. Like I can get jobs. I have received jobs from being involved in this network. And I've grown my career at a faster rate than had I would otherwise. It's not just about a cost savings.
No, absolutely.
It's not, but you've received jobs and you've helped people get jobs from this.
Absolutely. Another thing that I've done that I think you can do at many companies is usually within the companies there are volunteer organizations that the leaders are very involved with. Typically, high-level C-suite type leaders are involved with. That if you have a passion for volunteer opportunities and you want to become involved with the volunteer, I know I'm taking a whole different swing here, a different
I like
different
it.
direction.
Yeah, let's do it.
But this is good advice. If that's one of your passions, and maybe you don't want to go get involved with a, boring professional organization, but volunteerism is one of your passions, get involved with your volunteer organization at your work, and I bet you will have lots of opportunities to interact with your C-suite executives at events if they take it seriously and they're involved. I did that, was on an officer at one of the volunteer organizations at one of the large companies I worked on, and I had regular interaction with the C-suite officers, and I never would have dreamed it.
Yeah.
But because I was at almost every event and they sent officers to do, the pictures and that type of thing. So you just never know when you're going to have opportunities, but you're not going to have them if you're at home.
Yeah.
And I would never recommend to do something just to be seen. But again, if it's your passion, you may actually get an opportunity to network and
Yeah.
be seen. And hey, if you're out there with an HR person, and then that HR person gets to know you, and then someone's talking, and then, it never hurts to have positive feedback about you when they're talking about raises or bonuses or who knows, right?
100% the
Yep.
truth. There's something that I've said on here multiple times. I always butcher it. I feel like I butcher all these things, but it's one of them is, if you want to increase your net worth, increase your network.
That's
Okay?
absolutely right.
So you're a staff, you're a senior, and you associate with, whether it's the C-suite executives at your own organization or involved in a tax group, you're increasing your network. And the other one is, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around the most. So if you can increase that average and hang around higher level
Yeah.
people, you're gonna learn better things. And a lot of what you're talking about is just how to look, hold, be, present yourself as a professional.
Yep.
Just shining up that polish a little bit,
Absolutely.
right?
And that's something I think we all need to think about and consider, since we've been at home in our sweatpants, sweatshirts, or our shorts and t-shirts for the past 2 years. And we've all got to break out of that.
I wear this when I work at home every day.
Every day. I
Yes.
know that you do.
I do. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I think that is, I love that. So I love the advice that you're giving. This applies to everything, right?
Everything.
I mean, we talked about it. It's not just a tax thing.
Nope.
You're speaking to any leader of an organization, and you're speaking to any person who just graduated and they want to climb in their career.
Absolutely.
Do you think that the supply and demand, because you've mentioned that a few times, it's the demand, the staffs, the seniors, they hold all the leverage. It's just the demand of people needing that talent for their organizations. Do you think that if the supply and demand was a little bit more equitable, we would still be facing this? Let's say that we're not so lopsided as we are now, but we're a little more even. Are we still facing this?
I think so, because we were noticing the impact of it before.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we'd gotten a little bit. I think we were already noticing a difference in priorities with. Okay, I didn't want to do this, but I think we were noticing it because of the differences with the generations. I think we were starting to notice it. But I do think that's why we need to emphasize that the networking, regardless of your age, there's benefits to networking.
Mm-hmm.
And learning, regardless of your ages, learning from other people. That's why I love the different events, because I can learn from someone who's just graduated from college, as well as I can learn from someone who's worked maybe as many years as I have. So you just, it's great.
Hey, look, I am 100% with you on that. I think, we have a young lady who knows you more than I know you, who's talked to you a few times. She's sitting behind camera, and I can learn from her just as much as I can learn from you.
Yeah.
They're just different things.
Different things.
But I can still learn from them. So why I like being associated around people who are at her level, because I get to learn different things from them as well.
Yep, exactly.
Well, I love it. Angie's been great today. So we're going to be wrapping up here in a second. So if you could think of the 3 most impactful takeaways, benefits to people involving themselves and getting outside of those comfort zones, how would you summarize those 3 most important things?
Number 1, you get your network to get referrals to help you get jobs. At the higher levels, you will need people who know you, can recommend you for positions that will help you. Maybe also when you need to hire people, they will help you, tell you about candidates, etc. And then you will, what did we say? You can also get free advice. People, and then they can help you, walk you through I talk to people and say, how do I handle this this situation I'm dealing with in my department? So you can get good advice from people. And then what else?
Well, it's the overall professionalism, right?
The professionalism. That is what one of the things that I can't say I was but I was a young starting out young, out of college, et cetera, and it did help me learn how to behave in different environments.
Well, I'm not going to let you off the hook so fast. So, I've said that I talk about it with my girls. I have 2 girls. Well, you have a son and a daughter.
Yep.
So you're facing this in your personal life, and you see the impact with them, right?
That's why, yes. And they all said, "Oh, we don't want your job."
Yeah. Well, so what advice do you give them? I'm sure you share this with them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then I do say, Dad, make sure to tell my son, make sure you wear a collar when you're on a video call. Do not wear a baseball cap. And, I try to pass on advice to be professional, regardless of the fact that we're in COVID. We still need to have standards and pass on the things that I see and insist on professionalism.
Yeah.
And give advice like
Do
that.
you at least make sure that as well his video is on
That's
instead of the blank screen?
That is losing battle. It depends on what standards are enforced at each person's company.
Yeah.
And like at my department, we have video on.
Yeah.
But if certain companies, they don't insist on it, they go by what their bosses insist on.
We're a recruiting firm, right? And so we have a lot of bold, big personalities. So everybody wants their video on. It's not even, it's almost like it's not a standard. It's like we want it on because we're like checking out the backgrounds like, oh, what's that back there?
Yeah. What books are you reading?
Yeah.
And the
I like
bookshelf,
that.
etc.
Bring the dog on camera.
Yeah.
We want to see the dog. That's how we are. But I can see how certain departments, I'd imagine tax department's a little bit more reserved than a bunch of recruiters or an IT department, right? Could you imagine that?
Oh, yeah. No one wants their camera on.
So I think trying to set a standard in a department is a great idea. I love the thought of, having a collared shirt and no ball cap if you want to present yourself a certain way within an organization. Probably more impactful in a larger company than a smaller company because you're so intimate in a small company to begin with. But a larger company, it's probably a little bit more impactful to behave that certain way, right?
Yep.
Angie, thanks so much for being here today. I hope this was as enjoyable for you as it was for me, and I know our listeners as well, as she wipes the sweat from her brow. I love that. You've been great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Appreciate it.
Everybody who is listening to this, whenever you're listening to it, whether it's 2 weeks from now or 2 years from now, we are coming out of COVID times, but this problem is not going to stop. And so I really appreciate you bringing it to the forefront. And for leaders listening to this, I really do think it's important that when you identify someone on your team that has the ability to lead a department and an organization, we need to highly encourage them to get out of their comfort zone because the path for them is too bright not to. Until next time.
If you're looking for the next step in your career or the missing piece for your team, Unity Search has you covered. Whether it's finance and accounting, tax services, information technology, or human resources, Unity Search is here for you with experienced and dedicated hiring professionals. Reach out today and take the next step. Unity Search, placing you first.